I had an email during the week and I wanted to share it with you because it speaks to something that's a very common experience. So the person who sent this email said, I've got it here printed out, I've been learning piano now for 2 years. I'm very good at practicing, on average about 2 hours a day. That's really good. Away from the piano, I study music theory and rhythm. I do Hanon exercises. I also work at Sightreading on a constant basis. I've had 2 piano teachers. My question is, I'm at a point where I feel stuck and frustrated. I can't seem to remember pieces. I learn a piece but can't seem to play it that well. And the question is this normal in your experience with students? And thank you to the person who sent this in, because it really is something that I'd like to share with everyone, because it's pretty much a universal experience actually, and not just with the piano. In learning any skill, whether it's a language or learning to play a particular sport or anything that requires you to develop a set of skills, you're going to have times when you feel like you're not getting anywhere with it. So in this video I want to outline 3 steps that you can take to help you get over a learning plateau, specifically relating to piano progress. So let's think about, first of all, why do we hit this plateau? Why is it so common? So when you think about it, when you start learning piano, you're basically acquiring a set of skills that in the beginning are actually quite easy. You're learning the names of notes and where they are on the piano, and you're looking at some pretty simple music. So the wins kind of come thick and fast, don't they? You're moving from one simple piece to the next, and you get this great sense of momentum and a sense of progress, and your enthusiasm and motivation are high at that point. But as you get further along the path, the pieces become a little bit more complex, the concepts become a little bit trickier, and the skills you need, the coordination, the maneuvering, the understanding of everything that's going on, just gets that little bit more difficult. So the wins, the little victories that you were getting so often earlier on, are just a little bit more spaced out now, and they take a little bit more work to achieve. So you're not getting those dopamine hits that you were getting earlier on when you were able to just go from one thing to the other quite quickly. So in those circumstances, it can feel as if you have hit a plateau quite early on in your piano journey, when actually things have just slowed down and you're doing fine. But if you've been at it for a little while and you really feel like you're getting nowhere, or you're stuck in a particular piece, or you're practicing and you're really not seeing any progress, then this video is for you. So the first step and the most important thing is to recognize that you have hit a plateau, because the alternative to recognizing that it's a plateau is to decide that, well, I'm just not any good at this, and give up. We don't want that to happen. So the first thing is to just recognize, I've hit a learning plateau, this is normal, and now I just need to figure out how to deal with it. Then the second step is to pinpoint what exactly is stopping your progress. And there are a number of reasons that you're hitting a wall at this point. So one common reason I see why people get stuck on their journey is that they're working on a piece of music that's just too hard for them. If this is you, you might have just jumped into playing piano because there's a particular piece that you love and you want to be able to play it, but it's actually at quite an advanced level. So you're working on it, and you feel like you're hitting your head against the wall because the skills it requires and the understanding it requires are actually beyond what you've achieved at this point. So you've skipped some steps along the way. If that's the case, you'll need to take steps to rectify that, and we'll come to some solutions later on. Another reason why people get stuck is related to that first one, and it's just that you may be working on too few pieces, that you've got 1 or 2 pieces on the go and that's it. They're pieces that you want to learn, but you're not looking at anything beyond those 2 pieces. So you're not giving yourself the chance to learn from a wide variety of music and to develop skills that you can take into those more difficult pieces that you're working on, and that'll give you a little boost. A third very common reason is just poor practice technique. So you may be in the habit of taking out your music and just playing through it, start to finish, and hoping each time you play through it that the mistakes that are there, or the hesitations that are there, or the problems that you're having will somehow magically disappear this time that you play it. Even if you're dividing it up into smaller sections and going bar by bar and applying some practice techniques, they may not be sufficient for what you're doing, and you may need to broaden your toolbox of practice techniques so that you're getting the most out of your practice sessions. And finally, a very common reason why people get stuck along the way is that you've been neglecting the fundamentals. So we can often be in such a rush to learn a piece of music that we don't pay attention to reading the notes or reading the rhythm or breaking it down or trying to understand it and absorb the skills we need as we go along. We just want to kind of memorize a piece of music, so we may just look at the rhythm once and kind of memorize it. We may read the notes on the page once just to figure them out and then never look at them again. And so if we're not really developing our skills as we go along, then chances are we're going to hit a wall at some point and not be able to progress, because we just haven't spent the time developing those very, very basic skills of understanding the music, of being able to read rhythm, developing the coordination that we need through technical exercises, and so on. If, like the writer of the email I read earlier on, you've actually been doing quite a lot of the right things and you've been practicing carefully and you've been paying attention to the fundamentals, but you're still not able to play through your pieces the way you'd like to, then one way you can check to see what's really going on is to take whatever piece you're working on, or one of the pieces you're working on, and play it faster than you're able to, and see what happens as you play through it. Where is it breaking down? And you'll find there are certain parts of it that you're able to play through fairly okay, and then there are certain parts where you just come to a grinding halt, and those are the parts to focus on. If you feel like you're not able to play any of your pieces very well, it could be just that you're not paying enough attention to small sections of the music where the problems are hiding. It could be a change in position, it could be a fingering problem, it could be something in the rhythm that you're not quite understanding. And being able to deal with those little issues as they arise is part of our progress in piano as well. So if you feel like you're doing everything right but you're still stuck, then really it's time to go down to the micro level and see what's happening in your music that's stopping you from being able to flow through. So step 1 is to recognize that you've hit a learning plateau, not to panic, not to give up. Step 2 is to pinpoint exactly what's causing that plateau. And then step 3, as we're going to go through now, is finding a solution to the various problems that we pinpointed. So if you are the person who's just dived straight into a particular piece of music that you love and it's actually too hard for you, then I would really advise you to take the time and go back to an easier level. I'm not saying abandon the music that you want to learn, but to really broaden the scope and find lots of easier music to work on as well, where you can really focus on building the skills, and also to give yourself a sense of progress, because if you're always working on something that's too hard for you, that progress is going to be slow. Give yourself a chance to get that feeling of triumph over a particular piece of music by playing pieces that are well within your grasp. So we should always be including music that won't take us more than a week or two to master. So if you have 3 or 4 pieces on the go at any one time, 1 or 2 of them might be on the more challenging level, but at least a couple of them should be nice and easy, and that way you're really building your skills, you're getting a sense of momentum, you're keeping the motivation high. If you recognize yourself in the person who just plays through from start to finish, then you might want to consider finding new practice techniques. There's lots of different ways of practicing out there. You can download my workbook and work through a few of those techniques. That'll help you get over some of the difficulties you might be having in a piece of music. And just think of it as a toolbox. You just need various ways of tackling a piece of music or tackling the difficulties that you meet in a piece of music. And you don't need to try out 20 different practice techniques. Take 1 or 2 that appeal to you and get used to using those. Just make them part of your routine, and hopefully you'll find that will help you to get the progression going again. Be honest about the state of your basics. If you've been avoiding reading the music on the page and you've just been looking at it once and then trying to memorize it, or you've been trying to memorize the rhythm rather than actually working it out on the page, or your practice consists entirely of the piece that you're working on and you never do scales or broken chords or anything like that, then you probably need to start including those in your practice more. And also doing the hard work of reading the music on the page in front of you rather than just trying to commit it to memory from the beginning. At each stage along the way, there are skills that you need to pick up, whether it's just reading a certain range of notes or understanding a certain level of rhythm. So as you go along, try to master those so that when you move to the next level, you're bringing that foundation with you and building on it. I often hear of young students who do fine up until about grade 2 or grade 3, early intermediate level, and then everything starts to fall apart, because up to a certain point they're able to do things by memory and just by observation, and they haven't really been engaging with the written music. There comes a point then when the music is too complex to learn by watching what the teacher is doing or just by memorizing it as they go along, and the cracks begin to show. So that's true for all of us. As you go along, make sure that you're doing the work on the basics as you meet them, so that you don't end up slowing yourself down and having a lot of backlog to catch up on as you move to a higher level. And finally, I want to suggest that sometimes you actually are making progress, but you just don't realize it because you're dealing with the music day to day and you're not noticing the progress that you're making. I often have students come to me on a weekly basis and they say, look, there's no improvement since last week, it's exactly where it was, and then they play for me and I can hear distinct improvement, but because they're going day by day, they're not noticing the gradual incremental steps forward that they're making. So it's like when you see a child that you haven't seen for 3 months or 6 months and they've shot up 2 or 3 inches. It's very, very clear to you that change is there, but to them or their parents it's not so obvious because the growth day to day is tiny. So it's the same with your practice and your progress. Sometimes when you've moved past that early stage that we talked about, when the winds are coming thick and fast and you're making very fast progress through a book and you move into working on more standard repertoire, it may feel to you like you're not making progress, but to others who aren't hearing you every day, the difference will be very clear. So it might be a good idea to record yourself from time to time so you can listen back, in a couple of weeks' time when you're saying to yourself, I'm not getting anywhere with this piece, you can listen back to what you were playing today and go, oh, actually, yes, I'm better than I was 2 weeks ago. Or keep a diary of pieces that you're working on and make a note of the struggles you're having with them so that further on down the line, you can come back and see, well, what was I working on this time last year and how easy am I finding it now? You'll have the record then of having struggled with it, and more than likely, you'll be able to play it now. And think of a plateau as an opportunity for growth. There's something holding you back. So if you take the time to step back and figure out what it is that you need to do to keep moving forward, then you'll have definitely done yourself a favor, because you'll have taken the time to develop the skills that you need in order to move forward and to support the work that you're going to be doing down the line from now. So keep the faith, don't give up, be analytical about it, be ruthless about it, figure out what you need to do and go do it, and be patient. It will happen, you will make progress. A year from now you'll be playing music you didn't think possible today, but only if you take the steps to develop those skills that you need. So best of luck, let me know how you get on, stay positive and happy practicing.